Hey, like we always do at this time. What's up, Chandra?
Hey, Jamil.
How are you? How are you? Let me get myself all set. Hey, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh-oh. I'm having some issues. Chandra, you look great. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. Y'all, welcome to episode number 12 of the True Colors podcast. Go ahead, take some time, orient yourself. This is weird. Jamil is on the bottom part. Chandra is up on the top part. But we decided that this was a better way to get it done today. Y'all, thank you so very much for joining us for the podcast. Um, I'm your artistic director, Jamil Jude, and I am so excited today to be joined by what's better than one leadership partner at True Colors? Only two. My leadership partner, Chandra Stephens-Albright, our managing director.
Hey, Jamil. I'm excited to be here.
Good, man. Well, thank you very much. So, Chandra, we wanted to have a conversation today to let audiences know a little bit more about you. But there's so much happening in our field, in our world, in our community. So we want a couple of opportunities just to chat. But by way of introduction, tell the people a little bit about yourself. Yeah, and I want to talk specifically about the amazing person your dad was and how he inspired your nonprofit journey.
Yeah, so I'm a native Atlantan. My mom has been teaching at Morehouse College for 56 years. She just retired on effective June 1st.
Whoop, whoop.
So yeah, lifelong for me, college professor. And my dad was a fundraiser. He was at the Butler Street YMCA, and then he went to the United Negro College Fund. Then he went to a nonprofit, consulting firm called Skystone Wine. But all that time, he was very focused on raising money for historically Black colleges and universities. It was his passion. His passion was all about diversity and philanthropy. His point of view
Right.
was everybody has money. It's not just rich white people. Everybody has money. Everyone has a cause. Let's tap into that and let's diversify fundraising. So I knew he was a fundraiser. I never knew he was a rock star until a bad year. My dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2011, and he was told he had weeks to live. And he decided, no, I'm not ready to die. We're all very stubborn. But he fought that pancreatic cancer for 2 years. And what we learned shortly after he got sick was that he had won the highest honor that the Association of Fundraising Professionals offers. And he asked me and my sister to go get the award in Chicago at the AFP International Conference. So we show up to get the award, and we go to this Charles Stevens diversity, lunch. That's my dad's name, Charles Stevens. And it's like 4,000 people in the room. And
Wow.
me and my sister are like, what? And Queen Latifah is speaking at the front of the room in front of a picture of my father, talking about why she gives. And it was we had no idea he was such a, I don't want to curse, but a bad MF. We had, we just had no idea he was so well respected in his field. And so he fought the cancer for 2 years. And 2013 came around. He succumbed to the cancer on a Thursday. My job was eliminated the Monday that same week. I also turned 50 that year. So it was a heartbreaking year. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I talked to a bunch of people, and people who knew my dad and people who knew me said, you really ought to think about running a nonprofit. You're good at asking for money. You're good at helping people understand and connection with their heart to a cause. But I don't see you really working for anybody. So that's what happened. I joined the nonprofit sector in 2014. This particular job fell in my lap. I had just resigned my first nonprofit job because it was beating me down. I had a camp component. It was too much for me. And someone told Kenny that I was open, and Kenny and I met and had lunch on a Monday. And I had a couple conversations with my predecessor and then with some board members. And next thing I know, the same week I had a job offer. And I was like,
Wow.
well, damn, if Kenny thinks enough of me to run this theater company, I'm going to be all over it. Because I've been following Kenny since he was at Jamandi. And I
Oh,
was a
yeah.
member of Friends of Jamandi. I became a supporter of the Alliance following Kenny. And
Late
so the
80s.
honor of being his MD was just too much to say no to. And now I have the best AD ever as
Well,
my
I'll take
official.
that. Kenny hasn't signed on yet, so we'll take that. Chandra, so I'm I love hearing about your father and just the work that he did in philanthropy, and those questions of like, what is the power of just the dollar, but our dollar, and how can we encourage more Black people to consider philanthropy, consider the power of their dollar, and how economically motivated we can all be in this moment. Before we go there, because I want to come back to it, I just want to talk a little bit about that transition. Um, Theater people we have known to be touchy-feely, and we appreciate how sometimes not corporate our worlds can be. But can you talk about, like, hey, I moved from working inside these corporate institutions as a Black woman. I traveled in these spaces for so long, and now I moved over to a nonprofit world.
So how do I start? I've never been a theater kid. I didn't even know what that was.
Same.
I was brought in because I have business skills. And so the very first thing that struck me, I used to have all these nervous tics. I mean, it was corporate's not easy. I just sugarcoat it and dip it in some sprinkles. It's tough. And most of the jobs I was in, I was either the first Black person, the first Black woman. A lot of times I was the only Black voice in the room. And so there were earlier in my career times when I would just kind of batten it down. But as I got later in my career, I became more vocal. But on the flip side of that, I had all these tics, like nervous tics. Like I used to pick at my cuticle. I used to jog my leg. I had all these facial tells. But I don't think people really looked at me and saw that. They just saw the sister at the table, the Black woman at the table. But I had them. I mean, I had raggedy cuticles. So my first staff meeting with the team, I'm the new person. I'm in a new field. I'm with Kenny Leon. I'm nervous as hell. So I am picking my cuticle to death, and everyone's looking at me. And they're looking at me. And they're listening to me in a way that people never listened to me before. And I was like, ooh, so I haven't picked my cuticle since, I don't know, October 2017, because theater people look at you. They are literally absorbing your words and your movements. There is no BS. There's no fake when you sit in a room. And that was the biggest shock to me. Well, I shouldn't say it was the first big shock to me, was the extent to which you are watched, but not in a hostile way. It's like, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. The second big shock came at TCG last month. I mean, I've heard, American theater is a white male dominated, American theater is white, hashtag so white. But I had no idea it was as bad as it was in corporate, because theater is supposed to be about empathy. I was like, what? So that was the second big thing. It's like, yeah, I figured there's going to be that, because that's the way America is, and that's the way our culture is. But damn it, in the middle
This is
of
the
the field
American
that's
theater.
supposed to be all about joining people in the humanity, and to have this level, I just didn't think it was as bad as core. It's as bad, if not worse, because of the hypocrisy.
So, speak on that.
So that was. Yeah, so let me go back to fundraising for a minute. So my daddy taught me that it's not asking people for money. You never ask people for money. It's not about that at all. You connect people with their passions and things they want to be a part of. And if you really want to be a meaningful contributor to whatever that cause is, your gifts are super way more important than a foundation or a corporation or a government. Those things are important. Don't get me wrong. We need that. But those things change. We're in a pandemic. So a lot of corporations have shifted over to hunger and housing and financial literacy and making sure people have food. Perfect. Absolutely. They need to do that. Others have shifted to environmental causes. Governments have to feed people and make sure people have shelter and that the city services and county services and state services are in place. So those things can shift. But when you give from your heart, that is your heart. And unless the organization or the cause that you have adopted betrays you somehow, that's your commitment. And so having those individuals who really believe in a cause and support it out of their pocket when they have so many choices is very special. And the sad reality is, because of the gap in wealth and economic achievement of people of color, we just don't have the same kind of net worth and capability of making those gigantic gifts, the $25,000, $30,000 gifts as broadly as a white community does. So in our situation, I would say about 15% of our income that comes from gifts is from people at predominantly white institutions, and even the largest one, that number is 40, 50%. So for us, that's about, I don't know, call it $150,000 from individuals. At a big old institution, call that 5 or 6 million, 7.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to some of the things that that's happening and circling around in this moment. Right now, we find ourselves, the theater community, much like so many other industries are right now, trying to figure out, like, hey, how have we been promoting systems of inequality, whether they be white supremacy, whether it be systemic injustice. People are really asking the questions of their corporations and their theaters that they work for and say, like, what role have we been playing? As we are calling out everybody, how can we call out ourselves? And the theater industry has been calling itself out on just some of that inequity, some of that, and how organizations that have been perpetuating some of the, worst injustices, especially when it relates to BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, but they're also the ones receiving the bulk of the funding. Now, your job, Chandra, is part of, making the model and making sure that organizations like True Colors, small, Black-led, Black-serving organizations have and are equipped with what they need. Can you just talk to, like, what is that challenge like, and just trying to make sure, like, the cash flow is coming in and that the opportunity to do the programs, that there is money in the bank?
Yeah, so the first thing is really pinning down what we want to do. And art is art. It is not, it has science, but it's a feeling, it's an emotion. And so getting us in a position where we can try to conceptualize what we want to do a little bit further out than 6 months to a year helps, because then we can kind of figure out, okay, where are those passion points in the community, be they individuals or companies or foundations, or where are those passion points? We can start talking about that and sort of build people to see what we're doing. If they decide that they want to be a part of us, awesome. If they don't, they've learned something about us, and maybe that'll change their perception of Black theater. But that's the big challenge, is really trying to make sure we can think out beyond the immediate horizon to see what needs to be done. The second thing is basically keeping the lights on. So, I'm a donor to several nonprofits, and what makes me feel confident, not just that I'm supporting something I believe in, but that those funds are being stewarded. So making sure that we have processes in place and we have mechanisms in place to say, this money is going to be used for this thing, and we're going to steward it, and we're going to track it, and we're going to make sure it's used the way it's supposed to be used. So, unpleasant things to others, but lovely to me. Budgets and spreadsheets, love them, and forms and policies, but things like that really help us to make sure that we're being consistent and we're making the best use of every dollar that comes our way. And then the other piece of it is talking about it. So we used to, at True Colors, we did shows, and we talk about our shows, and here comes East Texas Hot Links, here comes Paradise Blue, and then we would kind of go quiet. I shouldn't use those shows because we didn't do that last season. When I started, sure, it was here comes Holla If You Hear Me, here comes First Noel, here comes Dot, but then we weren't really talking about True Colors, what it means and what it does in the community. And so what we've been doing recently is really talking about us, True Colors, the brand. And in this moment, I'm really glad we started doing that a year ago, because now it's not starting from scratch. I mean, when you came in and really started talking about artistic excellence and civic engagement, it's not like, what are they talking about? They talk about shows. But a year ago, we really started talking about, who are we? What do we stand for? Let's have this conversation about the Black men and what it means to be a Black man in America. Let's have this conversation about gentrification in a place that's being gentrified and bring those voices to light. Let's talk about brain health. You know, let's really dig into how this affects the people of color all around us, how it disproportionately affects Black women as caretakers and as victims. So having started that conversation about the institution of True Colors really helps us to build that groundswell of support among individuals. And that's my job. You are the artistic genius, and you talk about joy and pain, and you talk about she griots, and I talk about, I'm just saying, but I talk about, okay, how are we going to fund that? What's it going to take to bring those things to bear? And then we have really good arguments about how much that's going to cost.
Yeah, good constructive feedback sessions.
Yes.
Chandra, for a second, I want to go back. You know, you said so much, and we talk about this artistic excellence and civic engagement, but we also have been talking a little bit about just this moment, some of the ways you had to comport yourself in corporate America. But let's be present. Let's talk about 2020. You are a child of Atlanta. You grew up here. You've seen this city change time and time again. But here we are in this moment where we are facing something that feels too familiar and a little different, in the sense that we know that racial injustice has been pervasive for 400 plus years. But right now, there's a different awareness about it with how we can share information via social media and the like. How has that been affecting, you personally on just even how you navigate relationships inside your neighborhood with your neighbors, and especially now that you don't have to worry so much about the corporate veil, right? You're in a industry now that we can talk about our rage and our frustration and disappointment with a little bit more transparency.
Yeah, so I live in Midtown. I moved here for the first time in 1991. I lived on 7th and Piedmont, and I was stepping over crack files. There was a lot of prostitution. It was really sketchy. It was really sketchy when I moved into Midtown, 1991. Moved away, went to California, came back in 97, bought this house off of 10th Street. And it wasn't totally sketchy, but it was still kind of like, don't walk around at night and don't leave anything on the back of your seat and don't, that kind of stuff. And over the years, obviously, it has gentrified, and most recently, it's hugely gentrified. So we went from being, among maybe 10-15% of the population was living in these blocks to there's hardly any Black people living on this side of a boulevard, basically. And so I used to be on the Midtown Security Alliance, and the reason I joined that was that there was this guy who was putting these posts out about look out for this person, look out for that person, and it was like black, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm going to join this group, which is mainly older white people who've been in the neighborhood for way longer than me, like 20, 30 years longer than me. And my intent was, look, y'all, I want to make sure that people don't see some kid coming home from Grady and call the police on them, because the way this is written is it's inflammatory, and it's not necessarily helping people just differentiate between someone who's up to no good and someone who's just walking down the street. I lived in California between the first time and second time I lived in Atlanta, and met my husband there. And he is a child of LA. He's been pulled out of his car, sat on the curb wearing a shirt and tie, saying he was looking like a robbery suspect, sitting with a car full of material for his job at Gallo, right? So he has like zero police. Like, why are we joining this security thing? What? But I felt like, I need to be a voice in the room. Just say, look, y'all need to not just paint a brush. And I know what you're doing. I know you're pointing out people who are dangerous, but when we have these security posts, I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we portray people and what we call suspicious, that sort of thing. So part of that assignment on that board was we do neighborhood checks, right? So people go out of town, they say, hey, can you come by? And, you know, if the paper's in the thing, we'll put the paper behind the planter. Or if there's a package, we'll put the package behind the planter. We'll make sure nothing looks weird. And I never got, just to be perfectly, I never got any kind of vibe from them. No one ever challenged me, but I have to tell you, Chandra wore a bright red ass shirt that had MPSA all up in the collar on the breast pocket. Cause I'm like, I'm doing this as part of the neighborhood watch, but I'm personally concerned that someone sees me walking up on their porch and moving, planters and stuff. This is before porch pirates or whatever. I'm afraid someone's going to call the police and it's going to be a problem. So whenever I went on my neighborhood walks, I had that bright ass red shirt on. And like I said, I never got anybody vibing, but I felt that discomfort. Right. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, now, literally we'll be walking down the street and people just walk by. Now people are like, hey, how you doing? Hey. So it's just like overnight, 2 weeks, the vibe has changed, where people were like not really noticing you or speaking. Now you're walking the street like, hey, because we're out, and no one said, do you live here? I haven't had that. There have been some posts on Nextdoor Midtown where some younger Black residents over closer to Peachtree in the big high rises have been challenged. Do you live here? Can I see some ID? I haven't had that, but I have seen a turnaround in people speaking and being friendlier.
Yeah, I'm finding it interesting just how all these national conversations, just how they're happening on just such a micro level, right? Like what's going on with our next door neighbors, what's going on inside of our community. So I appreciate you sharing that, but also appreciate the opportunity for our patrons and our viewers to get an opportunity to know a little bit more about you and things like that. Thank you. I just saw the donation ticker go up. Yes,
Thank you.
We are talking about philanthropy. We're talking about all the good stuff. I want to give a quick shout out as we take this quick detour and thank everybody who gave for True Colors Power to Give, our matching work with the city of Atlanta. Thanks to you all, we met our match. We were able to be fully funded by the city of Atlanta. So thank you guys so much. It has been really inspiring. There have been a lot of conversations about the type of organizations that have been in the community, trying to do the work in the community, continue to do it, and the support that we have been given. So thank you guys very much for helping us with the match with Power to Give. Thank you very much for the support that you all are giving here on the podcast. Chandra, let's stay there since we're talking a little bit about just philanthropy and the dollar and where we are. I want to talk a little bit about just the transformational gift, right? Like we'll set the scene for people who may not be as familiar with nonprofits, but like these donors, funders, specifically private, public dollars, are looking for things to invest in, like your father was doing. What's a mission statement that I can get behind? But when we look at an organization like our size, 1.5 million, our annual operating budget, we see some of these organizations giving these huge gifts and funding, consistent funding, $1 million over 3 years, or $1 million a year, or something like that. Can you just speak to what, in your vision, and as you've been working, and you and I have been working to kind of cement some stuff, what could that world look like if True Colors was to receive like a gift?
So I'll go back to the beginning of True Colors when we were, first founded, and Kenny Leon was with Jane trying to figure out what they were going to do. The Candida Foundation gave us $1 million, and that helped True Colors to establish itself. It also helped to subsidize ticket prices because we were reaching out to a community that was new to theater in large part. So it helped us to subsidize our ticket prices. So today, then I don't know what our budget was. It was before my time, but we're $1.5 million now. So $1 million then was basically, I had to believe that was the budget. So for us now, we've got a couple of gifts I would call transformational recently. We've been funded very generously by local foundations, by local companies, but the City of Atlanta and Fulton County are just, I mean, oh my gosh, yes, Lionel and Camille, they really support the arts. They've been so generous. We haven't really been recently funded at the national level. We had, yeah, by foundations, right? Philanthropic foundations, corporate foundations, yes. And so recently we received a Bloomberg Foundation grant. We were one of 45 arts organizations that received a grant worth, yes, 10% of our operating. And not only was that transformational financially, but it also helped us shape the way we think. I mean, there were really solid training sessions on how do you think about marketing, how do you think about board assessment, how do you think about strategic planning, how do you think about using your social media platforms. I mean, there were solid things that we use right now. The 5-year planning framework that we use now came out of Bloomberg.
Yep.
The way we talk to donors about what they do, like we start with art. Art is the reason we are, right? So if we do the art, we talk about the art, we build a case for the art, we speak to those folks who support the art by coming to shows and doing August Wilson Mama competition, then that turns into gifts, and then that funds the art. So that whole cyclic way of thinking we came from Bloomberg. The second, you want to do another dance, we'll have to choreograph. The second transformational gift was Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. Yes. We had started talking to them a couple years ago and what we were trying to do and our vision. I think we started a conversation in 2017.
Yeah, 17.
And over time, we got to know each other, and we got a phone call, and they said, "Hey, we want to give you this huge grant." And then they called back and said, "Oh, we want to give you this huge grant plus another amount." So that was transformational because it really helps us to kick off New Play Lab, and it helped us fund new positions that'll help us build our capability. We're looking at changing our approach to marketing and having less of our time spent on the grind, the post, the email copy, the video, and we really have our staff thinking about how do we connect with our donors? How do we connect with our subscribers? How do we make our group leaders feel special? To really have our team focused on those relationships and have that external resource focused on the grind. That grind is important, but it doesn't give you time to do both. And Doris Duke made that possible. So what's the next transformational gift? I think something like a Mellon Foundation, if we could get in the door there, if we could have—
You better speak it into
Jamil's
existence.
Speak it out there. If we could have a resident playwright, if we could have a program to support young Black playwrights. I mean, Jocelyn B.O. was at the closing performance of Schoolgirls. And, I'm in Atlanta. My theater is Atlanta. So most of my theater experience is in a Black audience. Even when I go to the Alliance, it's Blacker in Atlanta, I think, than it is in some other cities based on what I'm hearing. And so, she said, "I've never seen so many Black people. It's magic." I'm like, what? So imagine you've grown up as a playwright. You've gone to school. You've been, working on your master's and being told, we're not ready for you yet, or that work isn't going to work because people don't understand you. Where else but True Colors can you come work in a Black theater in a Black city and have your work heard and understood in a way that really reflects what's in your head and what's in your heart? Wow, if that transformational gift would not only transform our work, it would transform our industry.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we get to mind meld on this. You and I, we get to mind meld on this all the time. And what you're speaking to is like you're really fighting back some of the fallacies that are put out there, right? Like again, I have spent the last 12 years in the American theater, and I have heard a lot of the lies that are being told about organizations like ours. And, I'm complicit in that. I believe some of those lies on like, how funding at organizations like ours isn't used properly, or how administrators are working so down to the bone and having to do everything that there's no time for visioning. And while yes, like, hey, like, listen, at True Colors, that we were that too. We have always been a small group of people, and we were always doing next project to next project to next project. But because of transformational gifts like the Bloomberg, like the Doris Duke, we're able now to think a little bit more. Like, we're able to think 5 years out, and we're able to work with amazing staff like Letitia Ellerson and our development department and things like that. That we're able just now to, like, okay, hey, we want to do this thing in a couple of years. Let's go plan for that. And we've been really thankful for those philanthropic partners that see our benefit from these transformational gifts to make the type of lasting change and that magic that Jocelyn Bio was talking about. Like, that's the pipeline, right? We talk about the art, and we talk about how we want to support it and how people come and support it, so that we can then go back and give artists that type of one of a kind of experience. Jocelyn Bio saying in the closing toast of Schoolgirls of the African Mean Girls play that seeing herself and her stories reflected back in the audience changed her life and her experience as a playwright. Like, that's what our organizations, BIPOC legacy organizations, can do, have been doing. And thanks to transformational gifts from our partners and anybody else who wants to come on, we're able to do that kind of work. So I appreciate you articulating it that way, and only someone as a managing director could.
Well, I'm listening, right? Learning to listen from the theater kids. And the other transformational thing, since we're going to speak things into existence, is research. So
Right.
we are small and we are mighty, and we have data, and we've had a couple of, Emory University's Impact 360 did a wonderful job for us with helping us analyze our data and helping us figure out some things that, wow, here's people that have been in our theater for the last 5 seasons, and we can see them. Here's some personas that we've started some work on. They finished for us. Here's a path forward for us to try to analyze what we have and make data-based decisions. And so having the research, if I could speak another wish into existence, I believe Wallace Foundation is focused on research. It's like, really help us come in, figure out how to integrate our data sources so we can extract insights from our customer relationship management, our ticketing system, our social media feeds. I mean, we've got all these things going on, and I'm spending a lot of time with our vendors, especially those 2 marketing companies, looking at, what happens when we do a podcast? How does those social media engagements turn into, financial engagements? Or how do they turn into, coming to our shows? How do they turn into just talking to us on our platforms? Because that's what, having these authentic relationships requires having a sense of what's working. It's like dating. It's like, she does not
Absolutely.
like steak, so don't go to KR Rathbun's after the first date. She likes, whatever. So it's the same kind of thing. So really having that a grant that would help us to build that internal capability, get our data systems cleaned up and integrated, so we can really start making some decisions and talking to people the way they want to be talked to, and listening to what they say and being able to act on it. That would be my other transformational wish, is for that kind of research.
And I think what you're talking about is that, you're building up that trust. I mean, like, people give because they trust organizations, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that the gift of philanthropy is that I trust you with the little money that I have to go out and do more good in the world than I could have done with this $5. So thank you guys to everybody who is donating right here. You're listening to True Colors Podcast, episode 12. I'm with up top Managing Director Chandra Stephens-Albright over at True Colors, and we're having a wide-ranging conversation, talking a little bit about her time growing up in Atlanta, the child of a scholar and professor over at the AUC, and also her father, who was a big champion of philanthropy. We're talking about a little bit of just what this current moment means to us and how we've been affected by it, coming from our different point of view, but specifically how Chandra and I and the work we've been able to do together, and just trying to align our organization to really serve the good of the community. But it really means that we've had to do that work of listening and trusting. And what we're now finding is that, okay, True Colors, we are in a position where our community trusts us enough to hold their stories, right? We talk about at True Colors that we are a place where Black stories are told and heard, right? Like, so we want to make sure that we're listening to people and that we're going back and we're telling their stories. And if philanthropy for nonprofits, or giving to nonprofits, are about doing the work of the community. It's really about trying to align those things, that we have the trust of our community, now continued trust from our philanthropic partners, to say that True Colors is a place that this work can be done. And the systems that you talk about are systems that have been invested in some of the major leading companies, cultural institutions across the country. You know, if we are really pushing in this moment, but always, for that type of equity and opportunity, an organization that serves an audience like ours deserves to have an organization that has access to all of the current technology to better serve their communities.
Absolutely.
Chandra, I want to, with a little bit of time, guys, if you have any questions, please make sure you hit us up in the comment box or hit us up in the Q&A. We'd love to answer any questions. You got both the leaders of True Colors here, so please take the opportunity to ask us some questions. But Chandra, let's talk a little bit. This is the season of She Griots. We've been celebrating Black women storytellers all year long at True Colors. Can you talk a little bit about some She Griots in your life, some of those women mentors that showed you the way? Any deltas in your life that you want to shout out? My Crimson and Cream sister.
We just had our, oh my gosh, I hate to say what year it was. I think it's the 38th Delta anniversary of my
Black
chapter.
Don't Crack. They won't know. Black Don't Crack.
I was 1 year after that. So I was on the first line of pledge at Emory, and the charter line was 1982. And so they just, 38 year. We just had a beautiful Zoom call. It was so wonderful. So since you mentioned Delta, I'll mention my big sister Cosmic, who was my first big sister, well, my big sister when I was pledging at Emory. And, you know, we were the largest Black class at Emory when we started. There were 51 of us. And I was a runner-up for the Woodruff Scholarship. It was a pretty prestigious scholarship. And then there was another woman. Anyway, most of the Deltas had either a runner-up or had some major academic scholarship. Academic, making sure that's clear.
Yeah, I hear it.
And so there was all this talk about, the standards are being lowered, you know, your affirmative action. And I'm like, excuse me, what number did you graduate in your high school class? Because I was number 7 and I had a 4.2. So I'm not sure what standards we're lowering.
Talk your shit, Chandra. Talk your shit.
I'm just saying. And my parents, they grew up in rural Virginia, my mom, and rural Georgia, respectively, and Dad grew up in Brunswick. So we were, our parents taught us, me and my sister, to speak our minds. And we went to white schools all the way through, from kindergarten to graduation. So we learned to speak our mind. And so it wasn't any different at Emory. But Michelle was amazing because the whole pledging thing was brand new. My mom wasn't Greek. My dad was at Alfred Morehouse, but he wasn't active. And so really understanding that sisterhood, and it wasn't the kind of, I taught trash. Nikki Toombs and I talk a little trash, but as Black women.
Nikki's a proud sister of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Yes, she is. And so my roommate was an Ivy when I was a pyramid. So it was just that we're Black women. We chose slightly different paths in terms of how we did our sorority decisions, but there wasn't that kind of enmity that there might have been in some other campuses. It was just basically trash talking. But she was such a graceful woman. Her mother was a Delta. She just was a great mentor to me. She remained someone. Her nickname is Cosmic. She's very CBD, instance, kind of chill woman. And so we stay in touch. Obviously my mother, youngest of 8, grew up poor, and her thing was classism. So she was told that she wasn't going to be valedictorian because she was from a poor family, even though she had better grades. So she ended up going to Spelman, full ride, Merrill Scholarship, brilliant woman, PhD. Also speaks her mind. She's about this tall, and she's a force. She be small, but she be fierce. I think that's Shakespeare. Help me out. Something like that. Yeah.
Mm. It sounds black to me.
Yeah, if I said it that way, but she's a mentor. And then my father's mother, my grandma, Lily Bell Stevens, she married my grandfather. My grandfather just showed up. We don't know his backstory. He showed up at their farm and started to work for them. He's a huge character. My grandfather is a hugely charismatic man. Finished 8th grade, advocated on the behalf of sawmill workers in Brunswick who were getting paid 25 cents an hour to be outside, you know, you could drown and get crushed by logs, and the white guys inside were getting paid $1 an hour. And so he advocated for the black workers. This is in the 20s, teens. And he got a pay raise for the black workers, but he got fired. That's the kind of guy he was. And so my grandmother, what I learned from her is don't look at a guy as a catch or whatever based on his family, his means, his shoes, his car. It's like the man. Look at the man. And that's what I learned from my grandmother, and that is why I am with Warren Albright, because he is
Shout him out.
He's a good man.
Good man.
He's a good man.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
So she was a mentor in many ways, very strong, literally imposing high cheekbones. They called her Pocahontas, which is probably really incorrect now. It is incorrect now. Yeah. But if you saw a picture of her, she just had these really regal cheekbones, and just very down to earth. But she's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful woman, and took no trash. She could chop wood.
I love it, man. It's been fun asking people about the She Griots, because we are inspired by so many different things, but it's been amazing just to hear these stories of these Black women that have impacted at this point, this is episode 12. So we've had 9 guests and 9 episodes with guests. So I guess a total of 11 guests, but they are telling these great stories of the Black women that have been in their lives, and how I feel like I get to know a little bit more. Like I feel like I know a little bit more about your mom. I love her always every time I see her, but also just where your father came from, and that lineage too is pretty cool.
There's
Chandra,
a Spelman shout out. There's a Spelman shout out.
I see that.
I need to say my mom is a diamond daughter. My mom graduated 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Is that right? 1960? It's more than that. You do the math, Jamil. But she's a diamond daughter, proud Spelman graduate, class of 60, and daddy was Morehouse, class of 60.
Word. Chandra, we work with some pretty amazing Black women as well. We got some She Griots on our own staff. Let's just take a time, just quickly, have you worked with this many Black women in your life before? And what is it like every day having that type of support? You talk about in the theater that we lean in, we see you, we kind of know you. There's a little bit, you can let your shoulders down. I love shouting them out, and let's just spend a couple seconds just saying hello and saying thank you.
I've worked with Black groups before, but in the context of a white company. Mm-hmm. So for a couple of years at Coke, I was the president of the African American Business Resource Group. So we had Black people in the room together. We were trying to figure out how to deal with professional development and just the unwritten rules and that sort of thing. But to have this be our work is new, and it's awesome. Because I can say, what does that mean? And it's not like, you don't know, and they don't know either. But, it's a chance for me to feel superior to you. So, being in the room and saying, what is a gobo? What is something that Nikki mentioned about educational, so there's a word she used, and what does that mean? Yeah. So being able to ask questions and not feel like you're going to be thought of less because you're trying to learn. And then we laugh a lot, and it's genuine. It's not strained laughter. It's not nervous laughter. It's not laughing to keep from crying. It's just very easy. It just takes a whole level of I don't even know. I used to wear high heels and hats at Coke. So they they would not let me in the door if I didn't have a hat on at Coke. And I'm talking 3-inch, 4-inch heels, big hats. I still have a closet full of hats over there. I don't wear them anymore because I don't need to take up extra space. I did that because I need to take up extra space so people could see me. It's like, here I am, RAW, look. And so that veneer, that artifice is gone. I don't need that anymore. And even when I'm talking to, you know, when we went back to Coke for, what was that show we did? King Hadley?
King Hadley second.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even feel it anymore. It was gone. I walked in, it was just like, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Like, y'all can't hurt me. I don't have any, I've been annealed or, you know, take the hot iron, dip it in the cold stuff, and it's like unbreakable.
Yeah.
Somebody knows me. They say it's a nice hat collection, though.
Oh, that's Victoria.
Ah.
Yeah, another one of the amazing Black women that have worked at True Colors. Yeah, I mean, you know, like and that's the thing that I've been trying to share right now. I've been speaking to a lot of colleagues around the nation as we've all kind of been galvanized in this moment. And, you know, we spend time, we take space for one another to commiserate some of the challenges that we have faced at the hands of predominantly white institutions and stuff like that. And that's not to say, I want to make sure that we say, that's not to say that there is not pain that is inflicted upon us inside of our BIPOC organizations, inside of our cultural organizations. At True Colors, we try to talk a lot. We can do more about talking about the ways in which we've hurt each other, the ways in which the organization has built some scars on us. But also, as we navigate some of these white spaces, I do talk about, like, you know, preview to the next season, our joy and pain. Like, we are able to laugh and have that type of solidarity that we're able to build inside of our organization because 99% of us look like one another, right? Like entire staff of Black women outside of myself, Brandel, and Joe, right? So it's just it's a change. And when I talk to colleagues who have had those experiences where they've been microaggressed based solely on their race or their gender, the value of being at a company like ours where we're able to give that. And I think because we're able to move with that level of authenticity and sincerity amongst one another, that permeates into the work that we're doing out into the community. That permeates into the way that we're able to work with artists. I hear it all the time that when artists work at True Colors, they feel like a family. And I think that's because you as a leader, managing leader, has made that family feel inside of our office staff, that we can permeate it through our artists, and then that permeates through our stage. And we kind of just continue that relationship along with the board. So I just wanted that moment just to call it out, that is something different, what we work through every day, than what so many of our national colleagues have to go through in their institutions that they work at.
Yeah, it makes me sad. I feel so lucky. I grew up not even 2 miles away from the Southwest Art Center where we produce. And I go there, and, you know, you and I are in the lobby saying hi to people. I've seen Dawn Axum, who I went to nursery school with and hadn't seen her since. I saw a guy, Teddy Benson, I hadn't seen since 8th grade, riding the bus together. My next down street neighbor, Miss Land, from when I was like 12. I mean, I see people in that lobby that I grew up with. My mother's friends, my parents' friends, my little sister's friends. It literally is like family. And so I feel so fortunate to have entered this industry in this warm place. And to the extent that we can help others feel that way, even if we're not at, I don't want to name any other theaters where we had the TCG conference last week and heard some of the pain. You know, even if we were an oasis, like, come hang out with us. Just come here with us and take a bath in the love and our staff and our shows, and just come in and just get your battery recharged and go back. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, man. You know, it is that balm. It is that salve. That's what art does. Art heals. Art changes. Art allows us to see ourselves in somebody else. And being at an organization like this, it really has transformed the way that I think about my role as an art maker, as an art leader. I'm really, really happy to be doing it alongside you. I'm really, really thankful to all the people who have donated. You guys are great. Thank you. Just within the 40 or so minutes, we've been able to raise over $100 just by talking, that you all hearing the passion, that our managing director serves the organization with, and why it's so easy for me to do my job every day, because I get to work alongside not just Chandra, but everyone else that we shouted out. Nikki, Lisa Watson, who's one of the best damn production managers out there. She doesn't get enough flowers, and she deserves it. One day soon, Lisa, I know you're still watching. I'm going to get you on this podcast. So this is take that as a threat. Shout out to, I said Nikki Toombs, I said Clarissa, Kristen Parker, thank you very much. Letitia, Victoria, when you were
Randall Jones.
in the trenches with us. Yeah, and now the guys, Brandel and Joe, thank you guys. Just, I mean, everyone, again, love the work. Okay, I see Lisa with, guys, listen, Lisa L. Watson 04, that's who we're going to get on this podcast
Yes,
soon,
sir.
Very soon, okay,
yes,
y'all?
Sir.
So just know that's coming soon.
Quick Lisa story. Lisa's the one who got me to fall in love with theater. She was at Jamadi and she offered to let me sit in the booth with her. This is 30 years ago. And she said E4 and the sun rose. It was crazy. So
Yeah,
that
man.
was like where the love affair started. So thank you, Lisa Watson. You're next.
Yeah, she can make the sun go up, not just as a stage manager in the Qs, but really her smile can brighten up a day.
Yes.
That's for certain, y'all. Well, Chandra, thank you very much for being in the driver's seat of the True Colors podcast, episode 12. We really are thankful for everyone who tuned in and watched. Know that we'll have this living on IGTV. Thank you all. We'll be back next week to keep this going, because this is what we do now. Y'all stay safe, stay your ass at home. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. Do the thing. We'll be back. Keep fighting, and also look for True Colors. We're doing our real responses right now, so check our social media as we continue to put out work from our artist community, speaking to the moment. That's hashtag real responses. So go ahead and check that out, okay? Sean, you got anything for the people?
No, we love you. Thank you for your support. We can't wait to see you back in the house. And be safe.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.